They say the church was older than the town itself. Its stones soaked in secrets, its bell tolling at odd hours, even when no one pulled the rope. It stood at the edge of Odiowu, a quiet Nigerian town where life moves slowly and stories travel faster than sound. The Church of St. Fidelis had a reputation, not just for the miracles people claimed, sick children waking up healed, barren women suddenly conceiving, but for the energy that wrapped around it like thick, invisible smoke. You felt it when you walked in, like something was watching, listening. People didn't talk about it openly, not in the daytime. But at night, around flickering lanterns and cracked cola nuts, whispers rose. They spoke of her, the woman buried in the foundation. No name, no grave, just a story that she'd been sealed beneath the altar when the first stone was laid. Some said it was a ritual. Others said it was punishment. But everyone agreed on one thing. Her presence hadn't left. When Father Obinna arrived, transferred from a bustling parish in Lagos, he didn't expect folklore to be part of his calling. He laughed it off when the catechist warned him, saying, "Just don't dig too deep, Father, not around the altar." But laughter gave way to curiosity, and curiosity to a slow, simmering unease. There was something about the silence in that church, how it pressed on him, especially when he prayed alone, how the air felt heavier near the altar. He told himself it was just the stories, just his mind playing tricks. Yet he found himself reading more, watching, listening, and always, the feeling that something was buried not just beneath the church, but waiting. In the early 1900s, long before St. Fidelis was even a sketch on paper, there lived a girl named Nneka. She was beautiful in a haunting way, almond eyes that seemed too knowing for her age, and a quietness that made elders uncomfortable. She didn't speak often, but when she did, it was always something strange. "The river is red today," she once said on a morning the village well ran dry. Nneka dreamed things, violent, vivid dreams of water-swallowing houses, fire dancing across the sky, chains dragging through earth. Sometimes she screamed in her sleep. Other times she walked straight out of her hut with her eyes wide open, feet muddy by morning. People said her spirit left her body. Some said it never returned fully. Soon, fear outweighed compassion. Parents pulled their children away when she passed. The local dibia warned that Nneka was tied to forces older than the land. The whisper grew, cursed. Then came the white man. Missionaries with firm voices and soft smiles. They spoke of salvation and structure, bringing blueprints and holy oil. They chose the center of the village as the site of their new church, land sacred and feared. And just days before the foundation was to be laid, Nneka vanished. No one searched. Not really. Some muttered that she had wandered into the forest, claimed by spirits. Others said she had simply fulfilled her destiny. But a few villagers, those with memories too sharp to forget, noticed something. The church's foundation was poured far too quickly. Too clean, too quiet. It started with a locked, rusted safe behind the sacristy wall, a safe no one had mentioned, half swallowed by dust and time. Father Obinna found it while cleaning, the key conveniently tucked into a crack in the wood, as if someone meant for him to find it. Inside were old papers, brittle and yellow, bound with a fraying ribbon that disintegrated the moment he touched it. The handwriting was neat, almost ceremonial, but the words made his skin crawl. "The sacrifice is complete. She is bound. Her pain seals the land. Her silence protects the flock." No name, no context, just cryptic lines repeated like a prayer or a warning. Beneath the notes was a faded sketch, barely intact. It showed the altar from above, but underneath, beneath the planks and stones, was a rough outline of a woman, arms crossed, eyes closed. No coffin, no burial ceremony. Just her. That night, Obinna didn't sleep. He tried, but something kept nudging him awake. Whispers at the edge of his hearing, soft but urgent. His dreams turned jagged. Visions of wet soil, muffled screams, chains tightening around his wrists. When he woke, his shirt was damp with sweat, his fingers trembling. He told himself it was just the stress of the move, the pressure of a new parish. But every time he walked past the altar now, he felt it, a flicker, like eyes opening behind stone. And always, the lingering whisper, as if the church itself was trying to tell a story no one had dared speak aloud. The local colonial archive was more a forgotten storeroom than a formal office. Dust-choked shelves, brittle papers stacked like dry leaves, and a silence that made Obinna's skin itch. He had to bribe the gatekeeper with a bottle of gin just to get inside. The records dated back over 100 years, some scrawled in faded ink, others typed in shaky English by trembling hands. He found the blueprints for St. Fidelis buried under land permits and shipping manifests. The plans were straightforward, no signs of crypt, chamber, or even a burial plot. Just plain stonework and foundation lines. But something felt off. The measurements didn't match the actual layout of the church. Rooms appeared where there were none. Then he saw it. A builder's log tucked behind the blueprints, stained and crumbling. Most of it was mundane. Dates, cement mix ratios, weather notes. But the last entry stopped his breath. One body, hidden, sight sealed. May God forgive us. No name, no explanation. Obinna's hands went cold. He flipped through related repair documents and paused at a faded photo. The architect listed for the last major renovation in the 1960s. Samuel Okon had vanished shortly after the job ended. No forwarding address. No death certificate. No one ever saw him again. She lived in a mud brick house at the edge of the village, where the forest crept close and the wind always seemed to whisper through the trees. Mama F was nearly a century old, with eyes that looked like they'd seen the world end and start again. When Father Obinna came knocking, she didn't ask why. She only sighed and opened the door. "You've been digging, haven't you?" she said before he even sat down. Obinna stiffened. "I found some records. Nothing more." Mama F's voice trembled with age, but cut like a blade. "You think you're the first to find them? The others who looked too deep. None of them stayed long enough to regret it." She leaned forward, her breath smelling of bitter herbs. "That church stands because her soul holds it. Break her chains, and the ground will remember." Obinna frowned. "There's no such thing as a soul holding bricks together, Mama. That's folklore." Mama F's eyes burned. "Then leave it alone. Let her sleep. That place is her prison. You start pulling at the wrong stones, Father, and the walls won't be the only thing that cracks." He left shaken, but not convinced. Not yet. It started with a crowbar and a lie. Father Obinna told the parishioners he was checking for mold in the basement. Nothing more. But once the sun went down and the church emptied, he returned with a flashlight, gloves, and a resolve that wavered more with every creak in the floorboards above. The basement was colder than it should have been. Damp air clinging to his skin like a warning. As he pried up floorboards and cleared away old bricks, strange things began to happen. His flashlight flickered, even with fresh batteries. Candles he lit would suddenly blow out, though no wind moved. His tools, hammer, chisel, vanished if he looked away for even a moment, only to reappear in places he hadn't touched. At first, he cursed under his breath. Then, he stopped speaking altogether. After 3 nights of work, he found it, a smooth stone slab, buried just beneath the altar, sealed in place with rust-colored mortar. It didn't look like any tombstone he'd ever seen. Strange symbols, worn but still legible, spiraled across its surface. Some familiar, some ancient and foreign. He knelt beside it, his breath catching in his throat. He shouldn't touch it. Every instinct screamed that, but his hand moved anyway, as if pulled. His fingertips grazed the cold stone, and he heard it, his name, whispered not in his ears, but inside his head. Soft, slow, and unmistakable. Obinna. He stumbled back, heart hammering. The basement seemed to breathe, the air thicker now, alive. The shadows twitched. Something was aware of him, watching. The whisper came again, closer. This time, it didn't sound alone. It started with slips, odd words slipping into Father Obinna's prayers, old dialects even the elders hadn't heard since their childhood. He'd catch himself mid-sentence, lips forming syllables his mind didn't recognize, and his throat would tighten like something ancient was trying to speak through him. When he asked the choir mistress if she noticed anything strange, she only looked at him wide-eyed. "That wasn't Igbo, Father. I don't know what it was." The dreams grew worse. Fire everywhere, raging through a forest, swallowing him whole. Then water, black and endless, pulling him down. His lungs burned as he sank. In his sleep, he thrashed and kicked until he jolted awake to find bruises on his wrists and ankles. Perfect. Dark rings like shackles had gripped him tonight. And then she appeared. A veiled woman, silent as dusk, sitting alone in the last pew every evening after Massachusetts. She never moved, never spoke, never blinked. Obinna asked others about her. No one saw her. But to him, she was real, too real. Every time he looked her way, she raised one arm and pointed, always at the altar, always the same. He tried to ignore it, even laughed at himself once. But the air around her felt wrong, too still, too heavy. When he dared approach her pew, a pressure wrapped around his chest. His ears rang. The floor seemed to shift under his feet. He backed away, and still she pointed. Father Obinna prepared for the ritual with trembling hands. Holy water, incense, Latin prayers, everything by the book. But deep down, he knew this wasn't the book. He stood over the sealed slab in the basement, whispering blessings meant to purify, to banish whatever presence lingered beneath. At first, there was silence. Then the walls groaned, slow and deep, like stone waking from a long sleep. A voice followed, soft at first, then sharp like glass dragged across stone. It was a woman's voice. Necka's. He promised I'd be free, it whispered. Said my pain would end, but they buried me instead. Obinna staggered back, the crucifix nearly falling from his grip. I was the offering, she continued. My blood sealed the ground, my spirit chained to it. They called it sacrifice. I call it betrayal. The air turned bitter. The incense curled in strange shapes. You opened the way, she said. Finish it. Break the seal. Let me go. But then her voice cracked, softer, almost broken. But know this, once I'm free, nothing holds back what sleeps beneath. Obinna's heart pounded. The town, the people. If she was telling the truth, her release meant danger far greater than her imprisonment. Choose, priest, she whispered. My freedom or their safety. He stood frozen, sweat dripping, prayers forgotten. The foundation beneath his feet pulsed, as if breathing. He wasn't just holding holy water now. He was holding the weight of a decision that could damn them all. Father Obinna stood once more before the cold stone slab, clutching the ritual book tightly, his mind a whirlwind of doubt and fear. This was the moment, the final choice. Should he break the seal and free the tortured soul, or reinforce it and keep the dark secret buried? His hands trembled as he arranged the candles and holy relics, ready to begin. Suddenly, the heavy wooden door creaked open. Mama F appeared, her face pale but steady, eyes filled with sorrow. Father, she whispered, stepping inside, there's something you must know. Her voice cracked as she confessed she was Necka's sister. The truth spilled out. The villagers, desperate to end the deadly plague that ravaged the land, had sacrificed Necka. She was bound beneath the church to hold the sickness at bay, a terrible price for their survival. Obinna's heart ached, torn between justice and mercy. With shaking fingers, he began the ritual. As he chanted, the stone slab slowly shifted beneath his touch. He hesitated, then opened the seal halfway. From a crack, a glowing mist began to rise, ethereal and shimmering, alive with both pain and power. The church seemed to hold its breath. The night was far from over. The moment the glowing mist slipped from the crack in the stone slab, the church itself seemed to shudder. The walls groaned, and dust cascaded from the ancient rafters. Father Obinna's heart pounded in his chest as a cold wind swept through the basement, swirling the mist around him like restless spirits finally freed from centuries of silence. Then, without warning, a pale hand, slender and trembling, emerged from the glowing fog. It reached out, fingers curling tight around Obinna's wrist with strength that belied its ghostly appearance. Panic surged through him as his knees buckled and the world spun wildly. His eyes rolled back, and a voice, not his own but hers, whispered harshly in his mind, "You broke the balance." The ground beneath trembled. sending small stones skittering across the floor. Above, the church bell tolled, but no one had pulled the rope. Its deep, mournful clang echoed through the night, a sound both terrifying and otherworldly. A scream tore through the air, sharp, raw, and filled with despair. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a sound that chilled the blood of every soul in the village. Darkness swallowed the basement, the mist fading into shadows. Silence pressed down heavy, broken only by the fading echo of that scream. And then in the darkness, a final, chilling thought crept into Father Obinna's mind. Clear as a bell, she's no longer beneath us. She's here. To be continued. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when part 2 drops. You won't want to miss what happens next.